How's it going out there? It's January 13th. I'm Frank Curzio, host of the Wall Street Unplugged podcast, where I break down the headlines and tell you what's really moving these markets. You know, growing up, I always wanted to be a basketball player. I would shoot hundreds of shots every single day, play in the snow and shoot around, no matter what the weather was, 20 degrees, 30 degrees. Kids, you don't really feel how cold it is. Now you do as you get older. Playing in so many leagues, tons of leagues, sometimes 4 within one season, and the season was like 3 months, 3.5 months, which included, a 6 o'clock game, 7:15, and an 8:30 game, and I also play on Saturdays. That was my life, even into my 30s, like early 30s, playing like crazy. I just loved it. And when I graduated, grammar school, St. Matthias, Queens, New York. I have a lot of people that are familiar with St. Matthias, a lot of listeners and friends. But after that, I went to Christ the King High School, which was located in Middle Village, not too far away. And it was a great basketball school. Where if you're looking at the women's team, it was kind of like Connecticut in college, right? And ranked number 1 almost all the time. Always ranked in the top 5. But really number 1, like you would have kids all over the country just come to Christ the King, because that was like Christ the King, and then you go to Connecticut, right? That was really like, the playbook. If you're really, really good, that's what you want. It's like Alabama watching a national championship game. Like their subs are going to be in the pros, right? Like their third string. Like if you want it, that's where you go, Alabama right now, right? That's where you want to go. Well, the men's team was also very, very good and ranked high, always in the top 20. But when I went, they were ranked, I think, number 2 or 3. I think it was when Kenny Anderson was playing. Back then, Malloy, I think, was ranked like number 1, number 2, Talentine. It was crazy. And I didn't make the team, right? I was actually too chubby. I couldn't keep up with them. Had all the skills. And plus, there was, 3 kids in politics that were involved where, teachers, their parents are teachers. I didn't make it. So not making that team was like the best thing that ever happened to me. And I was so disappointed. But instead of like putting my tail between my legs, just being like, I can't believe it, and being all upset, I played my ass off to get better. Right? I did everything I can to get better. And the competitiveness that came out with me from the point where every time I saw those kids that made that team, and I played against them a lot in leagues in the summertime, like my mission was to destroy them, kill them. Even today when I play against them, like I'm talking about up to like 6-7 years ago, because sometimes I went back to New York to play, what I say, I still have that. Like I have to beat them. And that transferred over to almost everything. Like you can see in stock picks and being right. And, sometimes it's not the best thing to be so competitive. It's great. It's a great skill. It's a leading skill. But sometimes, it gets crazy. Like I couldn't really shake hands after a game when I lost. And then I wait like 15, 20 minutes and I go over and say, hey, great game, guys. I just couldn't do it. I was just locked in where, we had to win. And it wasn't about me. It was about my team. Now, in order to get better when I was younger, we had to play against black people because black people were the best basketball players in our neighborhoods. And we traveled to certain neighborhoods. And I'm not going to lie, when we got out of the car, there's 5 of us. We almost got beat up a couple of times. And people thought, what are you doing here? But once we played, everyone was the same color. There was no race involved. There was nothing. It was just like, wow, these guys are good. These white boys are good. And it was great. And I still have a lot of these friends where, I'll talk to them through social media, they'll follow me, listen to the podcast, but it was all about basketball, And growing up in sports for me in Queens, New York, racism didn't exist. I'm not saying it doesn't exist everywhere. There's just, tons of respect when you're playing against each other. When you're playing against each other, you're the enemy. Afterwards, we're all brothers. And again, still friends with a lot of those people today. And that's the environment I grew up in Queens, New York. Is it like that every place? No, but I think it's like that in a lot of places, right? It was definitely different today compared to, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, right? I mean, 20 years ago is when I played. I'm talking about 20, 30 years before that, when I was in high school and stuff. I know it's crazy. Why am I bringing this up? Today in America, there is a theme going around that there's racism all over the place. It's everywhere. Almost like you have to watch your back or you're going to get jumped. You're going to get the shit kicked out of you. You better watch out. And as an adult, you see the political agenda, right? And it's easy to call bullshit. Okay, whatever. I get it. I get why you're saying this. Yeah, is there racism? Of course there is. Of course there is. I mean, it's never going to go away. But, the majority of Americans, from my point of view, at least, the people I know, the place I lived, where I traveled to all over, most are not racist. They're not. But if you fast forward to today, my daughter enrolled, and we enrolled her in private school, and this was until the 6th grade. And I wasn't really happy with how they were teaching her. It's, they never yelled at her. You never got detention. It's just, oh, you have a problem, teacher, come over and try to figure it out. It was just so hands-on. It's so not the real world. It's so not the real world. Seriously, they don't yell at these kids. They don't even, nothing. They get awarded for mediocrity, right? You don't even have to be good, right? Just like you see, everybody gets a trophy. No, in my day, not everybody got a trophy. You had to be good to get a trophy. That was it. And that created where I didn't get trophies when I was really young, to the point where I started getting MVP trophies because I wanted that. It drove me. I wasn't like, oh, well, where's my trophy? Where's a trophy? Oh, okay, cool. Everybody gets a trophy. No. And I wanted to take her out of there. So I did. And my daughter wanted to go to public school. She's like, I have a lot of friends in public school. I want to go to public school. And the public school's okay here, but, bringing it back to even me, when I grew up, I went to Catholic school. And the nuns used to hit you when you were bad. They hit you. They actually hit you. They hurt. They hit you. It wasn't like, oh, well, listen. No, they hit you. I mean, you did not mess around. There were consequences if you did something wrong. And back then, if you went back to your parents and said, oh, the teacher hit me, they beat you. Your parents would beat you. Nowadays, you go to the cops, you arrest people. It's crazy. Believe me, that's not the right way. And if I ever saw one of those nuns, and I know they're probably 70, 75, I'd probably take them and throw them in the lake for hitting me. I'm like, really? It's kind of crazy. Things are different back then. But, anyway, with my daughter, she's like, I want to go to public school. And public school here is okay. And she has a lot of friends, and she wanted to play on the basketball team. So she was like, hey, okay, cool. But, I was a little worried where, how she's growing up, she's not being prepared for the world. The world is ruthless. I mean, come on. Comes at you a million miles an hour. You got to prepare for this stuff. You can't trust everybody. You got to be smart. You're coming out of some of these schools and you just think, wow, everything's so nice. I'm going to go to New York City and try. Well, not now. New York City's closed, probably done forever. But I want to get a real good job. No, it's cutthroat. It's cutthroat. So I rolled her in public school and she loved it this year. It was great until about 3 weeks ago. That's when she did a TikTok video. If you're not familiar with TikTok, it is addicting. You'll watch videos all day, but you do like 20-second videos. A lot of them, you do these dances, like every song, a lot of songs have a dance and everybody wants to do the dance. And so she did a TikTok video and it was a hip hop song sung by a girl who's black, who uses the N-word about 50 times. But this is a clean version of the song. They have clean versions that you could use. So she taped it, did a 20-second dance, and she's just lip singing and everything. And at the end, like right before, she would say that N-word, right? Which again, if you're white and you say the N-word, you lose your life. If you're black, you have to say it. They encourage you to say it, right? Almost, because it's on every single song, every hip hop song, right? Which is just mind-boggling to me. It's something that, a word that you want to disappear, that's terrible, that's racist, but yet the people who's racist against like to say it the most, which is crazy, right? So at the end of the video, the girl's like, says N, and my daughter just follows. She didn't even say that. She didn't even say the letter N or anything. So you have a bunch of little kids in school, and then you have this group that's really likes to beat the crap out of all the girls and crazy, and everybody tries to kiss up to them, right? Just like a typical high school. But some girls just went over and said, oh, did you see, my daughter, she said the N-word. She said the N-word. She's a racist. Look at the video and this. My daughter was like, no, I didn't say it. So my daughter kind of took it down and said, if I offended anybody, I'm sorry. And I listened to it, right? Everybody listened to it. Nothing, right? So she did another video, and that made it worse for her, because like, if you didn't say anything, why'd you take it down, this and that? So anyway, she went to gym, which is outside this huge field, not a lot of teachers out there, and like 15 girls came up to her and said, oh, you said the N-word, right? And they're like, you wait, and they're talking about jumping her, and they want to fight her, and she's, I taught my daughter how to fight, but we're talking about girls that are like, 2 of them are like my size, that would murder her. And you're talking about 5 or 6, and they do that. They beat the crap out of some of these kids, and, they get suspended for like a week, and then they're back, right? So you have this group of people trying to get in good with all the tough people, and when you have all these kids, right? And they're throwing around that word racism. It's kind of crazy. It's a big word, right? I mean, they all started, now all of a sudden it started spreading like wildfire across the school, across the grade, and everybody thinks she's a racist now. I mean, she's in 7th grade, and there's no common sense there. I told her, I said, doesn't matter if you said it or not. I know you didn't, but according to everybody, you said it. That's it. Perception's reality. You know, forget my daughter's best friends. One of her best friends is black. Forget she plays basketball for her school. She's one of the best on the team, which has black girls, which she gets along with. She does TikTok videos with black and Hispanic friends all the time. Forget all that. None of that matters now. None of that matters because she's been labeled, and our whole school is turned on her. So when she was outside a gym and you have 15 girls coming up to you, it's pretty scary, you know? And she was like, you know, I didn't say it. I'm sorry, whatever I have to do. And I went to the principal's office and I said, okay, because, you know, if I see 5 girls on top of them, I'm done. I'm going to jail because I'm going to take one of the girls and probably throw her across the street. You know, I just, for me, it was never like third man in always gets the shit kicked out of him. You get knocked out. If you have a one-on-one fight, fine. If you see a third person coming in, most of the time, and I've seen it growing up, that person gets knocked out. You're not third man in. It's not 2-on-1. It's not 3-on-1. It's not 4-on-1. If you fight those, then it's different. If it's 1-on-1, it's different. Fight your own battles. That's the way I believe. But think about seeing your kid getting the shit kicked out of her by 6, 7 people. How are you going to react? And they all take their cameras out and look at it. So for me, the smart thing went to the principal. The principal was really cool. He's like, none of this is going to happen. He looks at the video. He said, nothing's there. But it doesn't matter. It's still going on and on. And now it's 3 weeks later, and still a lot of girls, like when she goes through the hall, they're like, oh, look at the racist. Oh, she's a bitch. They call her a bitch. What are you looking at, bitch? And again, I taught her how to fight, how to defend herself, but you can't defend against 5 people all jumping you. You know, most of these guys are really crazy. You know the crazy kids in school. It's been going on for a while, and what we found out is my daughter has those 2 other girls, and they went after another one, same thing, calling her racist, and then another one because she had a video, and people post all over social media as kids, even as adults, where she was trick-or-treating, and she had a Trump hat on. So when she got to school, all of the black and Hispanic kids went after her and said, you're a racist, you support Trump, you're a racist, you're a racist, you're a racist. And think about that for a minute. Because these girls are now isolated from everyone else, right? When they see them in the hallway, people calling them names. They live in fear every day when they go to school, which is a horrible thing. I mean, no kid should have to go through. But my question is, why is this young community, why are they so angry? Why do they believe that, you know, racism is a huge issue, which it's not. I mean, my daughter's a really good kid. She's nice. I taught her the right way. But, you know, the anger that's there. Because when I was in school, if someone started, and the schools I went to, majority white, but if someone started with a black person, whether you knew him or not, because they didn't like the color of his skin, the white kids would beat the shit out of the person that started with him. That's how I grew up. And maybe I'm just like in Queens, New York. It's the only place like that, but I have tons of friends out there. It's just, I never looked at that. I mean, maybe it's because I played sports and I don't think it exists in sports. You know, it's a team concept. But now, I mean, it's pretty crazy. But why are they so angry? Did you ever, you know, why? Why is that happening? And I think you guys know the answer to that because anger is everywhere. Division is everywhere. Both sides have no intentions on making things better and getting along. No way. Nobody, that doesn't work for anybody other than us, the people. And you have friends who are Democrat, Republican that you know that are cool, but when it gets into politics, it's like this, I hate your guts, you're an idiot for thinking this way, when our country was basically founded on that, to debate each other to find the best solution. Now, you're not even allowed to listen to the other side. If you think differently, forget it, you're gone. No way. But filtering this down, it's going down to our kids, because in politics, it's easy for adults to separate the real shit from the BS. At least most of us can. But our actions, our words, what we hear in the media, how Trump is a domestic terrorist, when Biden said Trump supporters are Nazis, when Jamil Hill said that all Trump supporters are racist, when you hear people saying Biden is a cheater, or Biden is going to die soon, this way Kamala Harris is going to take over, and all. I mean, this filters down on both sides. Our kids are listening to this. They're listening to this, and they're getting pissed off. I mean, you're going to hear about this a little bit later when I bring on my nephew who's trading, and it's the reason why I'm bringing him on. It's going to be fantastic. We're not going to talk politics, but it's amazing to see how much he is into politics and how many kids are like, think about when you were 18, 19, 20. I mean, you didn't know anything really about politics. You didn't follow. It wasn't a big. Now it's like these kids are engulfed in the anger and the social media. I mean, there's so much anger out there, right? But kids, they don't know the difference. And they only know what they're being taught by the teachers and the media, what they watch. I mean, imagine your kid watching MSNBC for 30 minutes. Seriously, watching MSNBC. She would hate America. She would hate capitalism. Seriously, you put that show on. It's like they hate everything and everybody. It's all anger. It's all mad. It's all blaming everybody else. It's not like, hey, everybody come together and this is a great thing. None of that. I mean, she would be angry all the time about issues and issues that we all know as adults are never going to freaking change, right? They never changed for 40 years. Healthcare more affordable? Really? Is it? Equality for everyone? Really? Narrow the wealth gap? It's more widened today than it's ever been in history. We're going to clean up your neighborhood. Oh, yeah? Really? There's places in Baltimore that are cleaned up. Look at the major cities in Atlanta. You look at, really? They're really cleaned up? Because a lot of these places are real danger zones now. Now they're getting worse, right? If you're taking police away and cutting those budgets, it's pretty scary. You're going to lower the deficit. I mean, we have 40 years, you go back, right? All these promises, nothing ever changes. But yet you're going to shout to the rooftops because, someone's telling you about something and you support the agenda. Next thing you know, it's crazy. It consumes your whole entire life as a young kid. And for something we're not even going to see change. We're not going to see change. You really think we're going to see change no matter who's elected? No. I mean, tiny things, but come on. It's the same thing over and over and over again. But how do you think this is going to end when it comes to our kids? I mean, I'm a common sense guy. I always speak the truth, even though it pisses some people off, even my subscribers. But, I tell it how it is, and that's me. If you don't like me, don't listen to this podcast. Don't subscribe to my newsletters. That's okay. That's fine. I get it. I mean, you can't have everybody liking you. If they do, that probably means you're fake because you could be shy and some people hate shy people. You could be, outspoken. But you're not going to be able to please everybody. You want to do that with your business where, I'm trying to make as much money as I can for everybody and do a great thing for them. But when it comes to personalities, there's people you're going to like, people you don't like. That's fine. But just be true to yourself. But being a common sense guy, how does this end? I mean, I see a massive revolution taking place where our kids growing up are going to be more divided than ever. Because when it comes to my daughter, I taught her to respect all people, everyone. But after her experience, as we have, black girls, Hispanic girls, accusing her of being a racist, something she didn't do, right? Calling her a racist, calling her a bitch, saying they were going to jump her outside to the point where, I had to go pick her up. Think about that. Like, how is that going to influence her growing up? I mean, how does she think about black people? I hope she doesn't think everybody's like this, that they're going to lie and call her racist or whatever. I hope so. But I hope she doesn't grow up like that for the rest of her life. I'll teach her not to. But when we look as kids, our character, right now as adults is based on our experiences growing up and who taught us. Right? If you're black and you're walking down the street and you get jumped by 10 white guys and they're calling you the N-word and beat the shit out of you when you're like 12, 13, you're going to think differently about white people going, you should, right? That's just, we live through our experiences and that builds our character. And something like this, and if she said the N-word, I'd say, well, you got to deal with it, honey. Sorry. You messed up. You apologize. And if someone wants to fight you, then, you deserve to get the shit kicked out of you. And if you said something like that, that's what I really would tell my daughter. You deal with it. This way you know better. But the fact that she didn't do anything, and now she's a really, really good kid, a nice kid that helps people. She's a good heart. And now to see like a whole school turning on her, it's pretty crazy. It's nuts. But it's growing up as it's almost like a religion, right? Grow up as Catholic. You're going to believe in Jesus, God, the Bible. It's never going to change till you die, right? Because that's what you were taught as a kid. But I feel like this gets lost on both sides of the aisle. Calling each other racists and cheaters because we have to look at this. It's filtering down to our kids. It's influencing them. It's changing them in a very bad way. But anyway, when it comes to my daughter, I told her never to run away from your problems. You need to face your fears. It's really difficult head on. But this is different. This isn't your typical case of bullying which goes on in every school. It went on when I was a kid. It goes on, right? And you deal with it, and hopefully it's not bad where, but you deal with it. And again, that builds your character. You stick up to ability, and believe me, it'll be the best thing that you do. But my daughter's being labeled as a racist. That's a really big word in today's world. And it's worse than being a bully. You're being labeled as someone that hates a certain type of people. And it couldn't be further from the truth. And my daughter, she loves hip hop. She has, black friends. She nothing. When you're nothing. And that's the way, we taught her. And it's just, really sad. But this whole racist thing, it's not just a temporary thing or a phase. That's something that's going to go away unless we really change it. It's a trend, and it's in its very early stages, and it has tons and tons of momentum. It continues to grow. And it's going to grow as long as we continue to bash each other. And bash each other as adults. And it's going to lead to even more division, which, let's face it, is exactly what our politicians and media want, right? That's what they want. That's how they make a fortune. That's how they maintain power. And people fighting, arguing. I mean, those are the people who post the most. You want a good example of it? Just look at my Twitter account. Look at my social media accounts. I'm covering the CES, Consumer Electronics Show, which is kind of horrible because it's all digital this year. I've been going for over 8 years. Still, just posting different things. And I'll get, this is cool, this is that, ideas. Again, I have Frank Curzio, whatever. And just a few people commenting. And then when I post something political or just mildly political, it lights up. It lights up. There's just tons of comments. The people on the left are going to hate you. People on the right are even going to hate you. But the people in the middle might agree. But everybody posts. You're getting the emotions out. They're taking the time to actually post. Not just listen, but to post. And when you do that, when you have emotions, when you have feelings, you start watching TV shows that support your agenda, whether it's Fox or whether it's CNN, and you get engulfed with this. And what they're doing is just program you to hate. And they're not saying, hey, you know what? Trump's gone. Let's figure this out. 75 million people voted for Donald Trump. Let's think about why they voted for Donald Trump, which was kind of the theme. I liked AOC coming out and saying that. We got to figure out why there was so many minorities that voted more than ever for the Republican Party. What are we doing wrong? That's cool. That's how you should look at this. Instead of saying 75 million people are crazy, because when you're throwing Trump off the platform and you're doing all this crazy stuff, you're making that worse, right? It's creating more division. You're trying to impeach him. It's creating more division. It's more hate. And again, that's what our politicians want. But I feel like we're falling right into this, and the biggest consequences filters down to our children. It does. I mean, everyday stuff. So what I'm doing with her is I'm enrolling her in, a good private school in Jacksonville. And I wonder how many parents are dealing with this problem right now. I mean, I don't know if it's going to go away. And again, if it's one-on-one fight, but she has a whole school calling her something that she's not. I mean, it's terrible. It's terrible. And again, I hate running away from this, but this is a big problem. And I don't know. And I'm afraid what I'm going to do if I see girls jumping her. I'm really afraid what I'm going to do. What any parent would do. But we're just looking at this. Seriously, how many parents are dealing with this? Where I feel like our kids are being conditioned the wrong way. Where there's hate. You can't disagree with anybody. Whether you're Republicans, conservative, moderate Republicans, if you're moderate Democrat, whatever it is. I mean, the division is insane. It's very scary times. And look, this podcast, I try to provide you with no bullshit research. I have no agenda here other than to help you make money, teach you the right way to invest from the mistakes I made in my 25-year plus career, how to avoid the scams. There's tons of them out there. Bringing all my experience from Wall Street to Main Street and educating those small investors. That's my passion. I love doing that. I love it. My goal is for you to make enough money where your kids and their kids are financially secure and don't have to worry about money anymore. So you retire early, maybe travel, have that extra time to share with your kids, your grandkids. That's what I love doing for you. For this situation, I'm going to ask you for your help. Email me, frankcurzioresearch.com. I mean, I think anyone could use advice on this because this is new territory for me. Is this happening to you? Is it happening to your kids at such a young age? Is this an isolated situation just happening to my daughter at her school? Right? Are young kids, no matter what color, race, gender, they calling other kids racist? Are we really seeing this in schools right now? Because this should be over. It wasn't like that when I was in school. Why is it coming back for? But I definitely want to hear from you. Need to hear from you. If you're email frankcurzioresearch.com, but I just want to share that personal experience because at the end of the day, whatever side you're on, this anger, it's not about you, man. It's filtering down to our kids. And that might be my fault. Maybe she hears me talk about it or whatever. But, we need to change. We really do. And the way everything is set up right now, it's set up for you to be angry. It's set up for division. And there's a lot of people that make a fortune because of that. And unfortunately, that's not you. They need your anger. They need you to post. They need you to go on social media. They need that engagement. This way they could track you even more and sell you stuff, sell all the stuff to advertisers. They need that. They want that engagement. Start watching their TV programs and charge more for advertising. They need that. But the consequences, they don't care about. But for me, I'm caring about it now that it's filtered down to my daughter. Let's move on. Going to move on because I have a great guest today. Someone that you should know by now. And that's Andrew Horowitz. Haven't had him on for a couple months. President and founder of Horowitz Company, host of the Disciplined Investor Podcast, an amazing, amazing podcast. He's been doing just as long as me, a little bit longer, though. Probably for 13, 14 years, Andrew's been doing a podcast. So we've known each other for a very, very long time, backstreet.com days. It's going to be a great conversation. I mean, we're really going to cover the sectors that are going to benefit from, the blue wave, because there's definitely sectors you see money filter in. We're going to talk about, different stocks and how, these moves are absolutely insane. Should you chase some of them? Because they just went up 150%. You think it's crazy. And now they're up 300%. But we're going to share lots of ideas. Andrew's actually going to share one of his favorite shorts, which is controversial. And I know I'm going to get tons of emails on it because everyone I know loves this stock. And it's interesting. Wait till you hear it. It's a really, really good stuff. And let's get to the interview right now. Andrew Horowitz, thanks so much for joining us again on Wall Street Unplugged.
Hey, Frank, you're looking good. Look at you. Lost all that weight. Happy New Year. You did a lot of work on you did a lot of work on your bod, didn't you? You did some kind of crazy crunch fitness, something or other, something.
Yes, and I'll never do it again. I don't know how people do it, man. It's I really went no salt, no bread, no nothing. And I mean, I was forgetting things. I hated everybody. I hated everything. And then I gained about a good 7 pounds back, which I needed, but I lost 22, and I think it's a month and a half, or something like that.
Are you a nicer person now that you're fatter?
Yes. All fat people are happy, right? I mean, that's a fact.
We're all happy. We're all happy.
Yeah, absolutely. I like you seeing you, purple background. I wore my purple shirt for you today. I think this is purple. I'm a little colorblind.
Thank you.
But
looking good.
No, looking good. So, let's start, since you're the one that I turn to who has all the answers, right? The market.
Oh, I don't think
so. What's going on here? I mean, we have the blue wave now, which was a surprise, right? I mean, we didn't expect it. The markets didn't expect it. All the research companies came out, all sell-side firms came out immediately the next day with, adjusting their portfolios. But, it's not so much whether the S&P 500 is going, people thought it would crash or it wouldn't crash or whatever. It's more that it's a rotation, right? So we've seen infrastructure names, environmental names. Oh, man. I mean, even cyclicals that trade, power, batteries, wind, solar. I mean, can these moves be sustained? Because we're seeing these stocks move not just 25% higher, but they're going up 2, 3, 4x in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
It's getting insane, right?
Right. Well, I mean, listen, I think it was an excuse for the opportunity for all those people that were looking for the value play, that reversion trade into the energies, the banks, financials, maybe some of the staples to say, hey, this is it. Because what's going to happen is we're going to get massive amounts of stimulus dumped on us. That's the theory, right? That we're going to have a blue wave and we're going to have a massive amount of stimulus that's dumped upon us in the form of fiscal stimulus, which is very direct rather than monetary stimulus. And that we're going to see infrastructure plays happening. We're going to see Green New Deals. We're going to see all this happening. And almost in lockstep, you can look at what's happening with those sectors, and they've done more than very well. They've done extraordinarily well leading up until the election as people were getting their situation placed into their bets. And after the election, when they found out what was actually hopefully the final, we'll see in a few weeks what the final is, but the final results of this whole thing. And and on top of that, when you saw the Georgia runoff and the fact that there was going to be a tie in the Senate and that Vice President-elect Harris is going to be the tiebreaker, everybody's like, all right, well, we just better get in on this trade. What's funny, Frank, is that if you think about all the negative issues that go along with the same side of this narrative, which is, okay, if we have this blue wave that comes on, or if we have the Democrats come in, they're going to want to roll back some of the regulatory easings that were done. They're going to want to increase corporate taxes and that's going to be bad for earnings. But everybody seems to be ignoring all of that. They're going to want to break up Facebook and Google and Apple and Amazon and anybody that, has a lot of money. And billionaires are going to be like, oh, you should not be a billionaire, you bad person. and that's kind of like, well, those don't seem to be really, they're lagging a bit. No question. Listen, the large cap growth side of the equation is down marginally for the year. The large cap value side of the equation, when you look at the Russell 1000, is up for the year. Mm-hmm. So there's definitely been a turn this year and in December. But I just think it's people are looking for an excuse that they need to find a place for their money. And they think that, after a 30% differential between growth and value last year, that maybe this will be the thing that swings it in favor of the value. So they're pushing money in it like crazy.
I know, and just like crazy, and you're right what you said earlier. It seems like anyone that has their own company and does well is like the enemy now. I don't know how that happened.
Bad people. Bad people.
How
dare you? How dare you be successful, Frank?
Yes, in America, it gives you the opportunity to be successful, but don't be too successful. Right. Don't you dare be too successful, right? But you know, when I look at this and just going over some of these stocks, I looked at and I got guys, for Curzio Research YouTube page, we have videos. You could see my ugly face and Andrew's beautiful face. But I'm just showing charts. This is 3D systems. This is 5 days. I mean, this thing was like at 11 and it went to 30. I mean, you're looking at what is it, Plug Power, some of these names, right, Andrew? I mean,
no, go look at pull up SSYS. That's the other 3D printer. Stratasys.
Yeah, Stratasys.
SSYS.
Portfolio and sold a little too early. Oh, don't remind me. But yeah, and this is another one when you look at 5 days, right? I mean, it's some of these moves are just
amazing.
Insane. They're insane. So it's for me, like when I look at this and where these things are going, I said earlier, is it the rotation into this? Obviously, environmental friendly, marijuana stocks are taking off. A lot of these names taking off. But as someone who recommends stocks and has your clients, what are you telling them in this market? Because there's that FOMO, fear of missing out, right? And we all have it. So, but yet, if you buy these things at these levels and you're wrong, I mean, not you and I, because we own our own companies, but if you think about institutions that hire these managers, if you're going into these things, they could drop 25-30% because they're up 200-300. Look at Zoom. Zoom was like 600, isn't it like three and change now? So, how do you play this, and are you able to find new ideas in this market where it seems like, a lot of stuff's going up?
So one of the things is we have different we use different strategies for different things, but one of the things is that has kept us, I would say, in good stead with our clients is that one of the strategies that we use for picking stocks is a fundamental screen that is not emotional. It doesn't look for, and it's not going to find names that have no earnings that are just moving up. That's just not going to happen in the screen. But one of the things that happens is that we find a number of stocks that meet certain criteria, like growth of earnings, growth of revenue, margin expansion, high ROE, certain volume trading, et cetera. And one of the things that happens is when we get a certain number of companies that come through that screen, we invest in them. But when we find there's only a small amount, maybe 20 stocks that meet that screening criteria, we reduce down our overall portfolio allocation to equities. And when it expands, we expand it also. Interestingly enough, right now there was only about 30 or so, 33 names that came through that in the last quarter, which gives us about a 45% equity allocation. Well, that's not a full allocation towards equities because there's something not right with the fundamentals. We're not seeing a matchup of the collars and the cuffs, so to speak. One of the problems is that this whole narrative, this is really the core of this, Frank. I think that this is the core of the discussion. The narrative has been that it's okay to have 23 times forward earnings on the S&P 500 or whatever stock that you choose or whatever index you choose, if in fact we have low rates. When we have historically low interest rates on treasuries and on bonds, et cetera, down at 0.5, 0.6 or so, on the 10-year, hey, you know what? It's justified because it's a risk-free rate of return. You use it in your calculations. You come out with a discount factor that, of course, more favors those companies that are growing, and you can give them a higher multiple factor. Well, what's really interesting right now is we've seen that the 10-year has gone from, 0.5 or so to like 1.17.
Yeah.
Now, that's still low, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that narrative has now changed. The narrative is now, well, it's okay. It's still low, but even though it's increased substantially, we could still justify these levels of price earnings multiples because you know what? That means that the economy is doing better and rates are naturally going to come up. The problem is you can't have both sides of this equation and both sides of the discussion yielding the same outcome. It's impossible.
No, it is. And just to see the rise just in the past month in the 10-year, which I'm showing. But and that leads me to my next question, because you and I love economics. We love the economy. I think you do a great job. I like doing it too. Where, when you say the economy, think bell curves. It's hard to take a class like that. But the economy is really about everything that we do, everything we buy. You get your next door neighbor selling their house, how much you're paying for milk,
right?
How many people get new cars. I mean, it's a lot of fun when you look at it that way. You can really see firsthand, not have to be an economist, of what's going on. Does these stats mean anything anymore? I mean, we had bad jobless reports. We had, manufacturing not that good. Does it matter, since it seems like even the worse we get, the Fed is just going to be there and spending trillions, where, that's the Kool-Aid. You have to drink it. If not, then you're going to be sitting on the sidelines watching this go higher. But I mean, the economic data, I feel like it's kind of useless over the past 3-4 months, where it doesn't even matter, right?
It doesn't matter. I mean, everybody has been really concerned and riled up about, oh my gosh, we're going to have socialism if the Democrats come in, right? And we're going to socialize everything. Listen, we have socialized our financial systems over the last 10 years really well, actually 12 years or so. And in this last go round, all those people that were crying they don't want socialism, to be honest with you, you should be very thankful that the government came in with the PPP programs, with the unemployment compensation, with direct checks. I mean, if anything else, if we have nothing else, aren't direct payments to citizens a form of socialized finance? Right? You take taxes and you send it out.
Yeah.
And what we've done is basically, as we've done before, we've plugged the hole that was made by a financial crisis. And if you're in the, I would say, 35-year-old range, and when you started investing and maybe saw the collapse back in 2008, 2009, and then you saw that the Fed and the government came to the rescue to bail out the banks, to bail out the businesses, and to bail you out. And now fast forward to 2020, when we had a different, but yet a financial meltdown, and the Fed came in to rescue the day. And we saw that along the way, the fiscal stimulus and the trillions of dollars, and the last $900 billion was simply a down payment on the next amount that's coming out. You're thinking, hey, what is there really risk in? Is there really risk in the markets? Because at the end of the day, what's going to happen is that the Fed or the government's going to bail everybody out. Nobody fails. But there is eventually going to be something.
Thing.
And one of the, but when, right?
When does it end?
It can't end now. It ends in either, no, it ends in mutually assured destruction from an economic standpoint around the world if anybody lets up, because you have now pulled forward this technology, incredible technology that has allowed for companies to increase margins with less employees, never needing to have those employees back. And this nonsense that, it's a fungible situation where you have the ability for workers that were working on, construction to all of a sudden enter the technology field now. That's not going to happen. The amount of training that needs to happen and all that is ridiculous. So the thing is that right now, economics don't matter. We saw that jobs number with somehow magically we're 6.7%, which were really a lot higher if you don't do all the statistical shenanigans that go on to calculate the labor participation rate. And then you saw a loss of 150,000 plus last month in December. Nobody blinked because they realized the worse the numbers get, the more opportunity we have for the government to stand in. And the last go round of the $600 per week unemployment gave a lot of people more money and fixed their balance sheets. It was like I hate to say this, but as terrible as this is terrible. So forgive me in advance. It was like a gift from heaven, this whole lockdown, where the governments felt so bad that they just plowed money, more money to some places that needed, less money to others, more money to individuals that were needed, less to others. But in the meantime, they've continued on. And that's why the retail sector is doing so incredibly well. Who would have thought? All these people out of work, millions of people out of work. Restaurants are coming back very strong. Shake Shack hit like a new 52-week high today. You look at even the cruise lines who keep on postponing their launches are up 50-60% from their lows.
Yeah.
Planes getting all sorts of bailout money. So it's here to stay. Unfortunately, there's no point in really relying on the economics other than as a sideline to understanding what the big picture is.
So we just talked about when does this end? We're seeing the 10-year rise, which, if it keeps rising, that's bad, right? You're going to see the Fed, what I've been saying, they're going to use yield curve control. Even Gunlock, who's on TV yesterday, Bond King, said the same thing.
Yep.
They can't have those rates rise, which is going into short-term rates, right? So now we look at short-term rates, which they're keeping low, and they're going to keep low, it seems like, forever. But remember, they have that magical 2% inflation target where, we want to see it around 2%. And again, everyone out there, we know that you're seeing inflation in freaking everything that you buy, but it doesn't matter because the Fed looks at the CPI. That's all they look at. So, by the way, the 2%, when they first said that? 2012. And we have
2%. And not only that, everybody around the world has adopted this. Yeah. And what does that number mean? It's this arbitrary number that they just can't get to. And by the way, if they got to 2%, like they were thinking they were going to, they already changed they moved the goalpost. They moved the goalpost.
But around 3%, because this is different from TARP, right? And just someone follow the economy. I mean, TARP, when we did, it was $700 billion, $750 billion, turned out to be less than $500 billion, like $470, $480. That went directly to the banks to stabilize the system. That was different.
Directly.
This is going this isn't going to the economy, and this is going like a check you're getting in the mail. I mean, this goes right into the. This is, for you not to see inflation skyrocket over the next 12 months, I would be extremely surprised. I just don't know if that's going to be the death of all this. Where inflation goes to 3.5%, 4%. What are you going to do? Long-term rates start. What are you going to do? Because eventually you're going to remove the punch bowl, and that premium on so many stocks, which some deserve. You mentioned there's winners from COVID that, hey, the government said, hey, you know what? Walmart, Target, Home Depot, you guys can stay open, but nobody, they pick and choose, which is fine, right? It's crazy to think about. But it is interesting to see how this will blow up. Now, I think we both agree on that from what we've been talking about, but let's talk about this year, right? Maybe we don't see inflation like skyrocket, this year, but we still have these underlying positive currents, right? That are creating a tailwind for equities. Right. What are some of the sectors, stocks that you see, that could benefit? Because a lot of these things are 52-week highs, which means you're going to have to take on a lot more risk to buy these things than usual. Yeah. But is that potential upside still there?
You have a low dollar. Listen, there is inflation. We have wealth inflation going on right now. Listen, there was more. This is fascinating. During the whole COVID lockdown and during the last 8 months or so, there's been more retail accounts opened with either Robinhood or Schwab or TD Ameritrade or E-Trade or name your particular interactive brokers. You name it, they're backed up. I know this because I'm in the business, and I know that they've taken people off the desk from service to go into new accounts because they just can't handle the flow. One of the amazing things that I heard recently was that one of the biggest deposits or the similarities in deposits over the last number of months have been the incremental amounts that have been put in that have been very apparent. $300 and $600. $300 and $600 were the most often incremental amounts that were put into accounts. Now, where's the significance there? That's from your extended payroll, unemployment, or your unemployment compensation that was put in. Mm-hmm. So people are taking all this money and putting it into the markets. That's what's been happening. They're putting it into Bitcoin or various cryptocurrencies or whatever they're putting it into. And they're definitely buying the SPACs. They're buying the EV names. We have a dollar that seems to be going down, and the potential for, as we have such a terrible situation here, probably another 20 or 18 months until we get fully vaccinated. If we get to that point here in the US, it's not going away tomorrow. And people still having this post-virus stress disorder, the PVSD that I've talked about. Mm-hmm. And they're doing differently. So what they're doing right now is everybody's really all hyped up about the idea that, hey, you know what? Electric vehicles are really hot. Charging stations like a Blink, an SBE are really doing very well. You mentioned Plug Power, which is hydrogen-based. They got a deal out of Denmark today. They got something out of South Korea a couple of weeks ago. Their stock is up by some multiple of something. It's gigantic numbers. Mm-hmm. You see the Tesla, which keeps on going up, which numbers defy gravity entirely. But what we see is right now that the potential, what's really fascinating is the energy sector is also moving up dramatically with everybody cheering on electric vehicles.
That to me. Explain that to me. Like more electric vehicls, right? So you're seeing less supply. We also have an administration that said they're against fracking. Okay, maybe on federal lands or whatever, but it's going to result in fewer wells being drilled. Not right now, but there's just a massive supply right now. We have, most businesses closed. Most major cities are still freaking closed.
Right.
This moving oil is kind of incredible. I mean, I don't know.
It's all OPEC. It's all OPEC. Listen, you know this. Oil is all supply and demand.
Yeah.
Yeah, but everybody knew they were going to have to do a production cut, and the fact is that it's all supply demand on oil. The idea that things are opening up, that everybody's going to start traveling again is something. But I think that the clampdown on it's artificial. It's not really demand; it's supply constraint in the form of what they did with the production cuts, and everybody's just hopping on board. And listen, the other day, Elon, let me just give you the summation of everything that's going on in one quick story. The other day, Elon Musk, he mentioned something about use Signal. He kind of puts these cryptic Twitter messages out there. He said, use Signal and this stock. I'm not going to mention the stock name, stock symbol, but this stock went up, named Symbol Medical Devices or something like that. Signal Medical Devices was up like 600% in the 3 days because everybody was thinking that he said that. This is one employee, no revenue stock that was a penny stock that was up like 600%. It's down like 60% today when everybody finally realized, oh, that's not what he was talking about, was that stock.
Yeah, that is funny. He was talking about Signal. So I use Signal. So basically it's like encrypted and everything disappears and it's more safe. And
right.
Yeah. So
everybody is looking for the next big winner because they're there. The speculation is high. We see it in the crypto market. We see it in the EV market. We see it in the SPAC market. Then we have on top of this, a lot of these guys that are doing the SPACs that have they had this godlike image of themselves that they're making everybody wealth. I mean, look at some of the guys that have been talking about this and they're like, oh, hey, stay with me. We'll make all this money and come in, with all these nonsense numbers, bringing in companies into the SPAC that was prior bankrupt. Look at what Fisker, for example, look at, Lordstown, look at all these different names that are being pushed into these SPACs. And you have to question, are they making money? Are they ever going to make money? But once they have the word SPAC slapped on them, they're up 40, 50% in a day. And they keep on riding from there. And you see companies like that are coming public in the DoorDash, which is up 16, 17% today, moving incredibly. And you see Airbnb starting to recover after DoorDash just blew out, came right down, smoked right back up to the top because people are thinking, you know what? I need to make money. This is the way to do it. There is an absolute stock frenzy going on. You don't want to call it a bubble, whatever, but come on, let's face it. There is a frenzy going on because there's too much money out there that needs to be shoved into somewhere. Tina is alive and well. There is no other alternative. And the fact is that people are saying, yeah, I'm watching everybody else make money. I had a CPA I talked to this week. He says, you know what? I pulled all my money out in December. I'm done. I'm not doing this because I got my money back. I put it for my 401k, but he said these valuations make no sense. And a CPA, valuation guy. Okay. He says, I'm thinking about buying Tesla. I said, what? What do you mean? Seriously. I'm not kidding. I had this conversation. He said, I'm going to buy Tesla.
Very quickly. Yeah.
Yeah. I said, what do you mean? He said, well, I'm going to buy Tesla because I think, everybody that I know has it. They're always talking about it. And what's the worst going to happen? I don't know about the valuation, but maybe it'll go up to $1,000 or something like that. I'll make a few bucks out. I said, wait. What about the valuation? He says, yeah, I know, but. So that's kind of the story that's going on. There's nothing wrong with it. It's musical chairs. As long as you have a chair when the music stops, you're in good shape, right? But in the meantime, have fun.
Frenzy?
What do you mean?
Think there's a frenzy out there. I mean, look at this Signal Advance, what you were saying.
Yeah, what's it down today?
This is the 1 month chart, but look at the 5-day chart. So this is where Elon Musk, it was at $6 and it went to 40 in like a couple of hours. And even now it's down 60%.
It was at $6. It wasn't 6 cents.
But
it was $6 or 60 cents.
Oh, I don't know. I think it was, this is 60. Well, it was but it was 60 cents on the 7th. Right. On the 7th. Yeah. And then it went up to $6 a couple days, by the 8th. And then on the 11th, it was 40. It's still 15 right now. It's still 15, even though
it's still 15.
60 cents, right? But nobody cares. But there's no frenzy. What are you talking about? There's nothing out there. But it makes it difficult because my nephew is young, and I'm interviewing him after us, and he plays options. He's on Robinhood, and I want people to understand that because options are very difficult. It puts a time value. So even if you're writing your thesis, if you're not right in the right time frame, you're going to get crushed. And he got crushed in a couple of days. He was making money, but I think there's this thing out there where people could just go on Robinhood and you're going to make money and you're going to do fine. But that fear of missing out creates those emotions when you're younger where, he had Tesla and it entered the S&P 500 and he had calls on it. And, the following that Monday, it opened up down. So he sold it for like a small gain. If he kept it, he would have made like, 30,000 on, whatever, like $1,000 bet or whatever.
Right.
That's what he's thinking. He's not thinking, wow, I made like 30%. But this market, is it going to result in what we see during these times where, the Robinhood accounts, the young investors, because right now it's difficult for seasoned investors, managers to really tell them, hey, what are you doing wrong? Because these kids are actually making money because they're buying all these, but they keep going higher and higher. They're buying on rumors and after the news and still making money. So it's kind of crazy environment.
Because everybody, listen, Robinhood has gamified the whole process of investing, and that's fine. Listen, it's all about making money. I am not a believer, everybody knows this, in the store of value or the currency concept for Bitcoin. I am not. So you want to throw pies? Hold it before you throw the pie. Let me say something. However, as an investment, have at it. I'm all over it. You want to invest in it. You want to work it. You want to have it for short-term, midterm, whatever. But let's not kind of get into the whole idea that this is a religion, that, there is something different going on here than has gone on with any other asset in the past, especially these new assets. There's a small amount of overall liquidity in it, so that helps to push the price around pretty much. And I'm not talking about any of the other coins or anything else. I'm just talking about the concept of Bitcoin. So, when it comes to the investing here too, if it's moving up, if you're making money, if you're doing it for a short-term trade or even a swing trade, whatever it may be, and it doesn't make any money, in fact, is maybe losing money, or maybe it's even bankrupt like a Kodak that everybody was chasing. Remember that one?
I do remember Kodak.
Have at it.
I remember it very well.
Have at it.
I was at the Consumer Electronics Show.
Hertz was the one. Hertz.
This time, and I said, you want a great stock, something that's completely off everyone's radar, is Kodak. It was $2. I had it at $2. Then COVID hit, and it went to 3 or 4. Came down. I took a very small profit and got out of it. But the insiders are like loading up like crazy. And then, the whole contract thing. But it was just weird. But I was going to the boots funding. I'm like, why are these insiders loading up? Well, anyway, but when you're trying to find these new ideas, it's not easy. I mean, you mentioned one, Blink. What do you like about Blink? It just being in the right sector? Is it better off? In the charts? I
mean, in theory, if we're going to go along with the idea that there's going to be more EVs out there, right? We're going to have more need for one of the big things about EV and what has stopped me in the past and a lot of people is, okay, I'm going on a trip. I have to plan out where I'm going to charge this thing, right? Whereas if we're going on a trip with a regular car, there's a gas station every 5 seconds. Mm-hmm. So the difference is that we need more charging stations and we need to have various places, whether it's retrofitted inside of a gas station or in addition to, or maybe in a Taco Bell or Chick-fil-A, or I don't know where, somewhere they have these charging stations. That's going to be a requirement to make sure that people can travel from place to place to place, assuming we go back to traveling at all. And therefore, not having to have a home base that they come back to all the time. And of course, we have the battery capacity issue that keeps on expanding and getting better. And whether you look at the Tesla or some of the other car companies that are coming out, Lucid Motors or, Fiskars and whatever. But the thing is that, if we have a 300 or even a 400 mile range on the battery, there's nothing like, getting to that last level of battery charge, not having, or gas in your car, not having a gas station around. So I think that that's an interesting thing. These Blink charging stations are something that's starting to perk up a lot of interest. And I think that is within the sector. And it has that tailwind of green.
Yeah, it definitely has a tailwind of green. And I want to talk about a subject here that I know you want to talk about as well, because this is something that hasn't really interested me for a while, even though so many people say, you got to get into this, Emerging markets. I didn't like emerging markets, and I love the U.S. because the U.S. was growing. There's pockets in the U.S. that were growing tremendously. There's sectors you could take advantage of. And that's why when you're looking at valuation, as long as your company is growing and putting up those numbers, it's being rewarded with their stock price. And Europe really coming down. China growth was slow. And now, I mean, they've always been cheap, right? That's been the argument. They're cheap. Cheaper gets cheaper, right? It's the worst argument. But now you're actually seeing these economies grow and grow faster than the U.S. and coming out of this thing. It's someplace I'm looking at. I know it's a boring topic for everybody at emerging markets. I got the U.S., but I really see opportunity where you can make a lot of money. What do you think about emerging markets here? And this is the first time you've heard me really talk about them probably in a good 6-7 years.
We've held pieces and parts and larger and smaller of emerging markets as an asset class for a long time in our global allocations and in our investology strategy. And the reason for it is from a diversification standpoint, it makes a lot of sense. If you look at a chart going back and you kind of look at where is the number one regions and sectors been over time, emerging markets will kind of loop back and forth into the top, into the bottom, into the top, just like every other one. However, one of the things we have going for us right now with the emerging markets is, number one, they seem to, many of them, not all, Latin America is definitely not, but many of them have gotten a bit better handle on this whole virus thing, at least from the news flow that we know. Whether it's true or not is another discussion. Secondly, you have a dollar that's dropping. That's very, very beneficial to emerging markets. A weak dollar is very good for emerging markets. It makes their products it just makes everything, their assets kind of move up, because what's happening is you invest there and their currencies are moving up, and that's a good thing for them. Obviously, it's not good for some of the purchases that we make with that and the differential between the pricing of manufacturing, but they're still cheap as can be, and it makes a really significant benefit to them. And then on top of that, you have the fact that we still want to move away from areas in China. There's been a big move around the world to diversify our manufacturing and things away from China for all the different reasons we talked about. So you have different regions that are starting to crop up as alternatives to utilizing China, which could really take that emerging side of them to a much bigger level. So there's some great things that are coming out of those areas, and it's one of those things you want to have in a portfolio.
No, I definitely agree. Definitely agree. So, run out of time here, and like always, I mean, I've known you for such a long time, man. Such a great friend. I love you. So, I always want to give you a chance to talk about, what you're doing, Disciplined Investor. You talked about investology, and yeah, let us know how people can get in touch with you.
Yep. You can go over to the disciplinedinvestor.com. Check that out. That's right there. There you go. This is where our podcasts are. You can go to the button that says strategies, check out all the different strategies that we have, and kind of scroll. Hey, look, there's Frank right there. Look, Frank, you see you with the helmet on? The Yankee outfit there? That's you right there.
That's me right there. Look at that. Yeah. I wish I had his body,
though. So we have different strategies for different people. It's been a great few months. The interest has been seriously to a point that we're like, okay, what are we going to do here? The amount of new accounts and new clients that come in have been astounding over the last several months. So thank you for that. But you can go there, check out all the things, listen to the Disciplined Investor podcast, find it on Apple, iTunes, Spotify, or anywhere else that's out there that you find your podcast. You can listen to DH Unplugged each and every week as well. So just reach out. There's a couple of different things. Ask us on the top of the site. There's contact us. Just find a way. And I'm going to give you something right now, Frank. I'm going to give you one stock to go.
All right, one stock to go. I'm writing it down.
I'm going to give you. I give you a few on the long side. I'm going to give you one on the short side. It's a speculative play. It's very interesting. MicroStrategy, MSTR.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this company, Michael Saylor, I've known him for not known him, but I've known of him for a long time. Interesting company, great company.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Basically bought $625 million worth of Bitcoin, an average price about $15,000 sometime in November, December, or something like that. Doubled up on his money, but this, which yielded him about, we'll just say he made $800 million or so from what we know of the stock. The stock has been trading like it's Bitcoin. The stock market cap has doubled, one from about 2 billion to about, I think it went to about from 2 to 4 billion or $5 billion of market cap. So in other words, that incremental amount of 400 or 5 or $800 million of profit leveraged up the value of the company somehow about 2.5 times, which is absurd.
Yeah.
And if in fact you see that Bitcoin, if it starts to slide down, what happens to that valuation? It's not going to come in the form of earnings, because unless they're going to somehow, which they may, move it from balance sheet assets somehow to the income statement. I don't know. Companies do strange things. It's possible. But we think that this is definitely overvalued for what it is. And just because they have balance sheet assets, which is good, is solid, doesn't mean that the company's valuation from market cap standpoint should be 2.5 times of what it was before, with only a small amount of incremental change from the balance sheet asset. So MicroStrategy on the short side is aggressive play, interesting play, something you may want to look at.
Mm-hmm. Very interesting.
So there you go.
I don't agree with what he's doing, and we established the CEO token. We're a publicly traded company now. I mean, I'm a big fan of Bitcoin for many, many, many years, but I don't like the idea of putting other people's money and that balance sheet into it, because if this guy would have did this at 2018 January, he probably would have got fired 6 months later. So And are other companies going to do? It's cool because it went up and it worked.
He's been prodding Elon Musk to do this. He's been prodding Musk to do this.
He's been dead on. He's been dead right. But it's just for me, when I look at the responsibilities, fiduciary responsibilities, and you have a cash balance.
Terrible.
What happens if it doesn't work out? I mean, and Bitcoin could go to 3,000 or 5,000, which I don't see happening, but it could easily go there if our government decides, hey, it cuts everything off and says no Bitcoin.
I think there is the potential.
That is a risk where now, you crushed it. Right? Now you're crushing your investors. That's the thing I worry about. But listen, the guy's been right. You got to give him credit, though. But I hear you.
Yeah, I can totally give him credit. Two things. Prediction for next year, this year. I think that there's going to be a lot more talk about regulation, especially with the Biden administration around Bitcoin or around cryptos to a point. And I also think there's going to be some kind of discussion about regulation from the SEC about SPACs. Because if you really understand about SPACs and how they're working, they're great deals for the managers that put them together. That's why they're putting these things together left and right and just using all this money. But there's a lot of excess SPACs, going on.
Guys, it's fun now because everybody makes money. It's almost like a Ponzi scheme where even the last people getting in, which is mom and pop investors, are able to buy these things even before they take over a company and make money. However, the amount of money these guys make and the reason why they're doing this is because if you're Peter Thiel and you invested in Facebook, you can't turn around and sell that right away, right? It worked out fantastic, but it was like 7-8 years, right? This is, you have a pool, it's on a stock exchange, you're buying a private company, it immediately becomes public, and then your lockup periods a few months, they're gone. They're gone. A lot of these guys are gone and they get to cash out. And
this is the ultimate pump and dump. Ultimate pump and dumps.
Yeah, I'm not saying, DraftKings that way, it's fine. There's some that are good, but right now,
there'll be a few that will work out. Right.
There's like 65 of them or something, right, that are looking for,
there's probably 2 or 3 coming on the market today. There was one today that came on the market.
I don't know. It's insane. But I did want to go quickly before we go. I want to say this because I'm looking at your podcast and I said the TDI podcast guest visualization.
Oh, yeah. This is a good one. Yeah, look at that one.
Who's this guy right here? You must really like me, huh? This is based on what? The larger and the more often they've been on the show. Man, look at me.
That is actually a algorithm that we built about the self-perception of the worth of the guest.
I love it. Love it. I love it.
No, that's how many times you've been on.
Yeah. No, that's cool, man. That's awesome. And another thing here,
and
guys.
Click that. If you click that, Frank. I think that will take you right to, I think it's clickable, right? It should be clickable. It'll take to all the different podcasts that you were on, I think. Should.
Is it? I don't know.
No.
It was weird because it was actually the other way a second ago. But you know what? I just made this bigger, so maybe it's not. Anyway, but no, I mean, that's awesome. I really appreciate it. And one more thing I want to share with everybody, which, because you guys know Andrew, you see him on his Twitter account, he posts all these things. I want to show you the Andrew that I get and what this guy texts me all the time because he loves to cook and what he sees in it. He texts me all this stuff. And then the big fish that you're catching with your family and stuff like this is, I used to say I used to say, when I die, I want to come back as Tom Brady. But you know what? When I die, I want to come back as you. I mean, you have unbelievable life. The pictures that you sent,
a lot of fun.
I got to get on your boat and really cool stuff. Really cool stuff, my friend.
Thanks for having me, Frank. I really appreciate it. Great show.
Thanks.
Keep up the great work.
For coming on, and I'll talk to you soon, man. Take care.
All right, great. Bye.
All right, guys, great stuff from Andrew. Love having him on. Always shares ideas. Just great. You can see, we're really, really good friends. Just a great guy. So, but again, this podcast is about you, not about me. Let me know what you thought. FrankCurzioResearch.com. Also, pretty interesting short pick there, right? I mean, everyone get tons of emails myself about how great MicroStrategy got to buy. They were, buying Bitcoin with their cash and a balance sheet, and but we saw news come out today where we have Lagarde saying that she wants to look more into Bitcoin because a lot of people are using it to embezzle money and stuff like that. Listen, this is something that's a real risk, guys. I mean, it's a real risk where the government could shut a lot of this off. I mean, which would be crazy. It has nothing to do with our token, our CEO token, or anything like that, but that could happen. But just really great interview. Love having him on because we go everywhere, and it's just, the economy and the things we talked about, guys, it's really true. It's really true. I mean, does it really matter anymore? I mean, do you want to follow this data? Is it a big deal? I don't know. I mean, it doesn't really matter when you've seen the money supply and how much money's coming into the system, but really good conversation. Love having him on. And we have different opinions of different things too, which is good, right? That's the way America should be, where, you debate things and you come up with the best solution. Now, these days, you're not allowed to debate for some reason, but I'm trying something new here. Okay. I'm going to bring in my nephew. His name is Joe Davide. I want to get a better idea of how the younger generation views the markets, economy, politics. Not so much politics, but just it's a very, very massive theme. It's a very massive theme. And the reason why if you look at the size of Robinhood, if you look at what's going on with Bitcoin, I mean, when I launched our CEO token and all of our partners, almost everyone I talk to is younger than me. They're all younger than me. Very few older than me. I mean, this, Bitcoin's like a young thing to understand, but look where it is. Maybe is there something we could learn from an amateur investor, whereas these kids are buying Tesla at 400, which I never in a million years would have recommended at 400, and it's 800, right? It's over 800. Or buying Tilray at 4, and it's 14. I mean, that's where this is going. If you're looking at certain stats, if you want to see how big this is and how it's changing the face of investments, where you have to address it with the younger generation doing this, the NASDAQ reported their metrics yesterday for December, the month of December. So U.S. equity options volume for options and contracts, 277 million. Last month, I'm pretty sure was the record of 242 million, but 277 million compares to last year, right, pre-COVID, 147 million. There wasn't 1 month last year, and I don't want to say last year, I should say 2019, right? Because we're 2000, but in 2019, there wasn't 1 year where they surpassed 200 million contracts. Who's buying these options? Lots of kids, lots of young investors are getting into it. So, Joe Davide, I'm bringing you on, man. Pressure's on. First, I want to thank you. Thanks so much for coming on, buddy.
Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
So, Joe, how old are you?
20.
20. Okay, great. So, when did you start buying stocks, and what got you into stocks at that age? Because even, my dad was into stocks at that age, but I really wasn't buying them and stuff like that. I really wasn't, I was just focused on basketball, focused on different things. Mm-hmm. It's a different world out there where kids are involved in politics. They're involved in investing. But how did you talk to your friends? I mean, what made you get involved with this?
Right. So I probably started investing last year. Mm-hmm. Mostly, I had, from high school jobs, just put money in like an E-Trade account, let it sit. Really, when I started really kind of learning about trading, kind of options, was when I first came down here, a couple months ago. And then I really just kind of started watching YouTube videos, watching other YouTubers. And it just seemed like kind of, I think I can get the hang of. I just took it from there.
So that's where, so I was going to ask that, like, where do you find your data from? Where did you learn about this? So it's basically through like YouTube videos, and because the YouTube community is massive among young people, right? I mean, we're just entering that market, and we're seeing more and more people because all we do is videos on our Curzio Research YouTube page.
Exactly.
And I get advice from you and someone else, Erica, who's actually in the room now. She listens to our podcasts, and she does great, and like a social media girl, and she does, but I'm getting advice from younger kids on how could we expand our audience, because they think differently than we do as adults, especially when it comes to social media and stuff. So, but just, do you know one of the people could you name one of the people that you listen to?
So on YouTube, I mean, besides Curzio Research, probably the channel Zip Trader. He's great.
How many followers does he have?
I believe he has 300K.
300,000.
I have to double check, but somewhere around there.
How old is he? Do you know? He's been doing it for a long time. Is he a young guy?
Yeah, he's a young guy. He's probably, if I had to guess, probably mid-20s.
Mid-20s. What do we have? Like, Erica, how many subscribers do we have to our YouTube channel? Like just over 3,000. This guy has 300,000. That's how big. And it's just one of many, right? Some of these guys have millions of people listening to them, which is amazing. And they're just posting on their own channels, basically. Yep. And you really started trading options, right? I mean, you're really into options when I talk to you. Talk about some of your option trades. What was one of your biggest winners?
So the biggest winner was most likely AMD, where I bought it right when, it was a couple months ago when I first got down here. I brought in, I spent probably $1,000 on the option. I brought in like $3,000 on it. Mm-hmm. That was one of the biggest winners. But the biggest loser was LI Auto. That I spent $3,500 on that option. Mm-hmm. Lost the entire thing. So it's pretty risky, and it's not, the best thing to do. But that's the price for learning. Well,
so you have. How long are you buying calls? Is that what you're doing? You're buying calls.
Yep.
So you're just buying calls, and how far out do you look?
So usually for me, I'm looking mostly around 2 months in advance.
Okay. And you bought Tesla calls as well, right?
So recently I bought Tesla right before it was added to the S&P 500.
Just a couple weeks ago.
Yep. Anticipating that it was a jump huge on that day. So a few days beforehand, It went up like $40. I had a pretty good return on it, and right when it was added, it went down like $50 that day.
Monday, I think it was. And I remember because over the weekend you said, "What do you think? You think Tesla's going higher tomorrow?" And I said, "You really want me to tell you where a stock's going to go?"
I know, but but I was looking for information. And next thing you know, that day it dropped like $50, and I pulled out like up $400. But the problem was now, if you look at it now, my expiration date was January 7th on it. I would have made a killing.
You would have made a killing.
I made a killing.
Even if I ever, absolutely. So,
if I exercise it, yeah.
But looking at that is kind of scary to me because it's not even that. Hey, as when you're young, I say this when this is going to be fun. I'm going to get emails on this, but it's true. So I always laugh when you hear about a young sports athlete in his early 20s, and they get married right away, and then they find out that he cheated on his wife. He's crazy, and they get. I mean. It's kind of par for the course a lot of times, you know what I mean? And I think as guys mature, because we're still not mature in our 20s, as we mature, we think about the consequences of what we're going to. So, but at a young age, instead of, I think, were you thinking more about, wow, I did great on this trade, or well, I made a little bit of money in this trade, or were you thinking more about, holy shit, if I held this thing, I'd be a millionaire, kind of thing?
In the moment, I was thinking like, well, like I'm glad I made money on it. Now, I mean, for me to be mad, like it's not going to get anywhere. It's over. I'm just happy that I got to look back and say, okay, I was right. If I held it out, this is where I'd be. But it's going to happen again sometime in the future.
Now, how did you, Tesla? I mean, Tesla might be a bad example because you find, everybody's talking about Tesla.
Yeah, everything's.
But, how do you find your ideas? I mean, are you getting your ideas from them? Are you learning how to trade from them? Or are you actually getting your ideas?
Stocks, trading ideas.
So this one person's giving you
multiple people,
his ideas.
Yes, he's the biggest one.
So he's giving everyone ideas at the same time, and everyone's just basically. And what happens when he's wrong? Does he come on and say, "Hey, this is what we're wrong"?
Nope. It's just you can't be right. Never. You can't be right every pick.
Yeah.
But you can be out of 10 picks, you'll probably give say 7 right.
Now, why options opposed to just because if you bought Tesla, you'd probably be doing amazing. But again, options. But why options? Also, because options are so difficult because you could be writing a thesis, but your time could be wrong.
Yes.
If you're wrong, you're going to get destroyed and you lose everything.
Exactly.
Right. It's like all or none, which is extremely risky. That's okay, but you're just playing against guys with algorithms, 5G that are doing 3 million trades per every quarter second, whatever. Why options and why not buy some of this stock?
I mean, I do buy stock. I usually just buy options because, it's 100 shares a contract. So it's, if you hit your mark, it's a lot of money involved. And like, I'm trying to build a portfolio where, at least I can get like 20 grand in there from options. And then I'll actually invest that money into stocks that I like. And then from there, we'll grow that way.
Okay. Now, what was one of your worst trades? Because one of them just came up though. You lost a lot, right? Which one was that one?
That was LA Auto.
What is that stock?
That's an EV company. So it's in the same like areas, NIO, Tesla, XPeng.
But it's China-based and didn't get delisted or something?
Yes.
And the stock crashed, right?
So the government was going to delist the company. Same with NIO and XPeng, and they all dropped. That's what my option was, and I just held it out.
How much did you have into it?
$3,500.
And how much does that represent of your total portfolio?
That was, at the time, that was 35% of my portfolio.
So 35% of your portfolio wiped out like nothing, like really quick.
Gone.
Okay. And you're not wrong, you're not right. I mean, this is part of the building process as you learn. But for me, as someone who loves you, my nephew, it's I want to teach you, but I don't think I could teach you right now because right now, the younger generation is smarter than us buying this stuff, which there's no manager out there that's really going to buy Tesla at 400, 500. It's at 800. Where you see Peloton break 75, 80, and it goes to 140. Just when we look at valuation, for example, do you, you're looking at trading. Do you know what a market cap is?
Yep.
Okay. Do you look at the market cap and how much it could double and stuff? You're looking at fundamentals and stuff.
Yep.
So why did you buy, what was it? The auto company. Why did you buy that one?
Well, it looked, at the time it had a lot of momentum behind it because with the group of stocks with like NIO and everything, they were having like, they're coming out with new batteries and everything. And LA Auto just seems pretty like appetizing to me. So I was like, you know what? I'll put it in. Not knowing the government was going to delist it, because if it didn't delist it, it probably would hit my mark. I had a $4 call on it right when it was at like $33, and they just dropped all the way down. It kept going to like 30, 29, 28, and stayed around there. Yeah, and then time decay killed it.
So traders sometimes it doesn't matter about fundamentals, doesn't matter market cap, doesn't matter about anything.
Yeah.
But it matters about trading patterns. But this is just like an idea that you heard from somebody basically.
I was really into investing, and then all of a sudden kind of just got into trading. And I mean, you could trade stocks and buy shares, scalping, really quickly, beginning of the day. buy like 100 shares of a company. If it goes up $5, you know, pull out. But options, I just like better because there's a lot more money. But I'm not really in it kind of right now for the money. I'm just kind of trying to learn everything like one step at a time, really learn everything with the markets. And then from there, I'll really kind of dive into something specific.
And just like, there's not like a great investor out there that hasn't gotten crushed and lost money. As a kid, I mean, that's what how you build, right? That's how you learn. Those are learning experience. You can't have a model portfolio and say, no, you have to have stake in it where the feelings, where you're like, holy shit. You know, when you have that, that's the learning experience. Because now you're looking at it like, you know, now you ask yourself, what if?
Right.
All right, you love this thing because it really doesn't matter if the company makes batteries or anything. How long is it? A month, 2 months, 3 months, right? Yep. I mean, it's not, you know, you got to hope something happens within that 3 months. We're in a bull market. Everything's going higher. 95% of the companies are above their 200-day moving average. But at the end of the day, where do you see this going to the point where, you know, do you feel like there's a correction coming? Do you feel like this collapse? Do you feel that a little bit?
Yes.
Like, do you get nervous at all? You're just like, wow, this is... Like Dave Portnoy says, he's like, this is easy. I mean, this stuff's a joke. And he's right. He's like, I really don't know about it. Just buy these stocks and I'm up like $1 million, $2 million. And it's true. He's saying that. And you're like, you know, you can't really get pissed off at him because he's right. And it makes, you know, guys like us have been doing this all this. I'm like, whoa, you know, really? And I had calls on Tesla, or I had calls on Peloton, or I had calls on Zoom. Well, Zoom's down like 45% from its highs, but it's kind of crazy when you think about it. Now, what platform do you use? I
actually switched from Power E-Trade to Thinkorswim, which is TD Ameritrade.
And why'd you switch for?
Because Power E-Trade is 15 minutes off. And in order to get real time, you'd have to pay like another $130 a month. I was like, you know what, I'll just switch, have real time. You know, so at least if I'm looking at stocks or looking to like place a trade, which, you know, I don't place a trade every day. It's like, you know, maybe like once a week. But at least, you know, the numbers are actually accurate instead of 15 minutes off.
Makes sense. What about Robinhood? Have you been on that platform?
Nope. Not yet. I don't know. I'm not really like a big like fan of Robinhood yet. I'm not on the bandwagon yet.
Oh yeah? There's a lot of people. Even my wife opened up an account. My wife opened up, listen to this story, it's great. My wife opened up an account. She said, you know, I want to trade a couple of stocks. Her friends, this is like 6 months ago. And she didn't put a lot of money into it. But when she did that, she signed up on Robinhood. And she's like, hey, and she bought like a couple of stocks. And then she's like, they gave me a share of one stock for free. You know what stock that was?
Which stock?
Plug Power.
You know where it's at now?
They gave her one share at 6 and it's 71.
Yeah, I was going to say, today it's got to be...
I'm like, honey, if you put everything in it, we wouldn't have to work anymore. Don't get me wrong, I do this forever. I love it. It's not even a job to me. But it was just funny where, you know, that's how the market is, where could we learn something from that as being, you know, because it's amazing how many people turn their back on Bitcoin, Joe, who said, you know, this is bullshit. All these, you know, Jamie Dimon said it was a fraud. Warren Buffett these guys are destroying
because it's going to hurt their portfolio,
and they're all reversing costs because now they're like, wait a minute, you know, now we kind of understand this a little bit, and you get lost in those opportunities sometimes when you're just setting your goals and you're like, wow, this can't happen, this can't be sustained. But just hearing because what I'm hearing from you, Joe, is pretty much, you know, this is the young traders, this is what they're doing, even on the Robinhoods or whatever, you know, platform you're using. Yeah, I think there's a lot to be learned on both sides, but you know, going through this process for you, you know, you have your end goal, and I think that was to make a certain amount of money, and then you're gonna buy regular stocks. You think you could turn it off, like stop buying options one day?
Definitely not. I'll keep doing it, but just getting, you know, a decent amount of money in the account, just really trying to invest and just let it grow. But yeah, at the start, you know, I love option trading. You know, it's definitely something I'm going to keep doing.
I mean, you think about how you're setting up mentally, right? So if you bought Tesla and you bought calls on it and you put a couple $1,000s in it, and it's worth $50,000 now, I would think it's impossible for you to change to where you're like, okay, I'm going to buy, you know, AT&T and just hold forever. Well, no way, right? That ain't going to happen, right?
Well, it depends. But I would do that personally. If I had, you know, say 50 grand came into my account, I would probably have 25K for option trading, then invest the other 25K to actual invest.
Fair enough.
That's what I would do. I would split it up, and I would just I wouldn't even take any money out. I would grow it all the way to like, you know, 200K over years.
Like, I know you're living down here. Joe's running my stores, doing a great job running my stores, the phone stores, business I own, which I'm hands off, guys, but it's fantastic, amazing business. But do you have a lot of friends that are trading? You talk to other people that are trading?
I know on YouTube, like I am in a Discord group off YouTube, so it's like 5,000 people talking about all their day trading stocks and everything, and I'm just kind of go on every morning.
Is it like a pump and dump? Like, oh, you got to buy the stock before it's too late, or it's like, hey guys, this stock looks good, it's breaking out.
Like it was like, hey, like with Plug, that was one of the stocks that was mentioned weeks ago, and I did not even catch it. I was like, I don't even know what it is. I'm not gonna take part of it. And at the time, it was like $40. Look where it is now.
just the buying that goes into like once it's a decision like 3D. I don't know if you had DDD. The stock was like 11, and it's all of a sudden it had decent news. Should have been up 20%. It went up 130% one day, and now it's like 25, 26, whatever it is.
That's what it is too.
Just a week. There's just a week. So it's for when I see stuff like this, I'm looking at it, I'm going like, holy cow. It's just now, let's go to political front, because I know that the younger generation is really involved in politics to the point where our younger generation, no way. Like, we didn't care about this crap. We were playing basketball, we're hanging out. I mean, is that like social? Like, for example, do you know who the House Speaker is?
Nancy.
Okay. There's no way anyone, when I was your age, anyone knew that. I mean, we barely knew who the vice president was. We didn't care. We were just like, now it's like you're engulfed in it and you're like, wow, we got to get this guy to, you know, with issues that probably are not going to impact you for a very, very long time. You think they are. You think there's going to be climate change. You think all this stuff. They're going to promise you everything in the world. That's what they do to get elected. And nothing, you go back 40 years, nothing's got done.
Yep.
But, you're more politically involved now, I think, and talk about it, right? What about your friends? I mean, when you go to schools and college and stuff, they're all talking that?
Yeah, right now, like, the political scene is, like, on fire. Like, all my friends, we're all into it. Everyone's keeping up. It's just the only thing is, like, I mean, I'm definitely more Republican, but most of my friends, like, are Democrats. So it's pretty good, like, debating and wise. We don't get too heated.
Is it a debate or is it a fighting? Like, people hate
sometimes it's fighting. Like, there's a few, like, friends of mine that will literally fight. Jeez. And I just don't even bring it up with them because it's not going to get anywhere.
No.
Not going to change their mind.
I don't know, man. There's people listen. I know you guys. Some of you may be listening, saying, "Well, that's a good thing." I think it's a horrible thing.
It's tough.
Like, go
ruins
play
friendships.
basketball. Go have fun.
Yeah.
You're supposed to go nuts. You're supposed to get drunk and be stupid and make mistakes and have. Those are the memories that your memories are going to be like, "Oh man, Trump lost," or "I can't believe that," or "This person's a cheater," or Trump's a racist. And, like, that's what is the kids are seeing these days, right? It's so amazing that's what you're growing up with, where. Man, politics were not a big deal when I was younger. I was just like, whatever. Nobody cared. Your parents cared because, they're older and, retirement and interest and earning income. Like, there's things, healthcare, obviously, there's things that impact them that are very, very important as young people. Just, I feel like they're missing out on the fun stuff, those memories that I never will forget. And definitely, a lot of them of me being irresponsible and stupid, but they're fun. And those are the things you remember all the time. You don't remember about that test you got an A on. You remember about, going out drunk the day before and you didn't even know that you were taking a test and, you got a 75. You were so drunk. Those are the things that you laugh at and joke around at. But it's just kind of amazing. But so what do you, let's get it. What do you like now? What's going on in that community? What are some of the stocks that are they saying like, hey, you got to watch out? Is there any betting against? Is it buying puts, anything like that or no?
Today I was looking, there were definitely puts against Tesla today at this morning because this morning it was down, like, it dropped to 834 around there. It dropped a considerable amount, so they were right about that, but it's mostly calls because right now the market's been booming this kind of sector that I've been kind of like following, been booming. Yeah. So I definitely think there's time for a pullback, a correction.
Yeah, no,
it's definitely coming. I'm not sure when. If I had to guess, probably right when Joe Biden gets in office. Every president gets in office, the market gets a little shaky. So I think it's going to stay till then. February to March. I mean, hey, if he does what he said when he was running, where he was going to do, shut down the country again.
Where did you learn that every time a president, you heard that somewhere, right? You read it?
Yeah, research, yeah. Okay. Where usually most times when a president gets in office, the market's shaky. Maybe it does a little correcting.
And what did you see that off like the YouTube channel and everything?
Yeah, with Trump, I've known that for when Trump got elected. That was the biggest news because his first 100 days in office were people were antagonizing him over it. Yeah. Over what he was passing and everyone, so at that point, 4 years ago now. Yeah. I've always had that in the back of my mind.
No, that's interesting because, I mean, my advice to you is when you're listening to these people is do your own homework.
Exactly.
Do your homework. Even if you're listening to me and I have my ideas, guys, you got to do your own homework. It's your money at the end of the day. You're following my advice and you guys trust me. I've been doing this for a long time and you should. I've got to be wrong sometimes and right more than I'm wrong, or the day that happens, I'll never do this again. But for me, I've always checked that out. Like I always want to see, like when I went to visit fracking, when I learned about fracking, I thought I was going to go to these areas and there's going to be dead animals everywhere. And I realized that it's impossible for fracking to cause water contamination. It doesn't exist, right? This is all completely made up. I mean, water's 500 feet deep. You're going around this 6,000, 10,000, 12,000 deep and pulling up, you could get all those chemicals and dump them in a lake. That's different, right? That's intentional. But, mild earthquake. I was just surprised where just the agenda was fracking is killing animals. It's killing people. You're lighting your faucet on fire from that movie. It's all bullshit, and I'm like, wow. And what it resulted is me coming back, recommending a lot of these stocks, and my guys did great. But even with you, when you're looking at this, Joe, if you think that, that YouTube channel, there's a bunch of them and they're all like, like a stock and telling you to buy it and stuff like that. If you could find out and do your own research and say, hey, you know what, this is bullshit. What's going to happen is they're going to drive it up. It's going to be a great opportunity for you to make money if you do your own homework. But usually when you do that, you're going to be an island up by yourself when you're against the crowd. But right now we're in a market where you could bet with the crowd and make a fortune. You could buy on rumors. It used to be buy on rumors, sell on news. It's buy on rumors, buy even more after the news.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that since the .com.
The hype
I'm not
is
comparing this market.
There's so much hype today. It's just any stock is literally you can just pick.
You can pick and they go up like 70, 80, 90%.
It would just go up. Yep.
Valuations don't matter right now, which is crazy. But that it's not going to be like that all the time. It really there hasn't been like that. It's since the .com era, and that was a very, very long time ago. Like the young generation. I mean, before you were born, we're looking at 97, 98, 99, when all these things are really taking off. And even 98, you're like, wow, this has to crash. And the market doubled. From 1999 to 2000, people don't know that. The NASDAQ doubled again. And then it crashed. And then it went down like 70, 80% or whatever. But it's, it's not always like this. But I'm glad you learned from your mistakes. And I just wanted to hear the other side, guys. Let me know what you thought about this. FrankCurzioResearch.com. I mean, I for me, it's, you can learn from anyone, I mean, people use the word like he's smart or she's smart. Like, I think everyone's smart and depending on what the subject is. I don't know anything about plumbing, but I think they're brilliant. Something obviously tolerable, right? I'm like, these guys are amazing. These guys are brilliant, whatever it is. But I think everyone has something you can learn from and bring that to the table. And I'm glad you came on and explained it because it's going to give like a good perspective, I think, to everyone out there just to see because I can see all these kids, they don't know what they're doing with it. Well, they might not know what they're doing, but they're making a shitload of money right now. I can tell you that. They are. They're buying a lot of this stuff and, what a lot of people are avoiding this. So, I just want to say thanks for coming on. I really appreciate it, man. That was awesome. And guys, if you're going to send emails in and complain about Joe, I'm just going to let you know one thing. This is my sister's son, Christine, who runs our HR and our customer service department. So when you send us emails, they go through her first. So if you say anything bad, especially if you're a subscriber, she knows your address. Remember that. I shouldn't say that, right? People are going to take me serious. They're going to beat you. In today's world, you can't joke, right? Everything's, you call something.
It's a threat. You can't.
But anyway, just be careful because she's going to see that email first. Mom is boy. You never know. But Joe, thank you so much for coming on. Of course. I appreciate it, bud.
Thank you for having me on. All
right, guys. So listen, hopefully you guys enjoyed the show today. A lot going on. Definitely check out our Curzio Research YouTube page because all this, the videos, into all this stuff, we're doing a lot more, and we're gonna have exclusive stuff that we're doing, and that's absolutely for free, right? Just go there, subscribe, like it. It's again 3,000. You've seen other guys with 300,000. We really want to build this up, focus on all investors, even the younger investors, and educate them. And of course, there's always something that we could learn from them as well. And hopefully, like the interviews today. So that's it for me. Have a lot of fun. Enjoy the week. Stop talking about politics because everybody gets mad when we talk about politics. And as always, I'll see you guys in 7 days. Take care.